Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're diving into a story full of high stakes, drama, courage, and a pivotal moment that changed history. We're picking up in the book of Esther, chapters 3 and 4, where things get incredibly intense. So, picture this. King Ahasuerus has just promoted this guy named Haman. Haman is now the second most powerful man in the entire Persian Empire. The king even commands everyone to bow down and pay honor to Haman. Everyone does it, except for one person, Mordecai. Mordecai, who we know is Esther's cousin and a devout Jew, refuses to bow. Why? Because for him, bowing in that manner was an act of worship, reserved for God alone. Now, Haman is not the kind of guy who takes rejection well. When he finds out Mordecai isn't bowing, he is filled with rage. But he's not just angry at Mordecai. In a terrifying overreaction, Haman decides he wants to destroy not just Mordecai, but all of his people, the entire Jewish population throughout the kingdom. This is pure, unadulterated hatred. Haman goes to the king and, with some slick, manipulative words, he paints the Jewish people as a threat. He says they have their own laws and don't obey the king. He even offers to pay an enormous sum of money into the royal treasury to cover the costs of his horrifying plan. And shockingly, the king agrees. Without much thought, he gives Haman his signet ring, basically giving him the authority to do whatever he wants. So Haman gets to work. He has a decree written and sent out to every corner of the vast empire. The order is chilling. On a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, all Jewish people, men, women, and children are to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated, and their property plundered. Can you even imagine the terror that spread as this news reached the Jewish communities? The Bible says, there was great mourning, fasting, weeping, and wailing. The empire was thrown into confusion, while Haman and the king sat down for a drink, completely detached from the horror they had just unleashed. When Mordecai learns of the decree, he is devastated. He tears his clothes, puts on sackcloth and ashes, ancient signs of deep grief, and mourning, and cries out loudly in the city. The news reaches Queen Esther in the palace. She's distressed to hear about Mordecai, but she doesn't yet know the reason for his grief. She sends clothes to him, but he refuses them. So, Esther sends one of her attendants to find out what's wrong. Mordecai explains everything: Haman's plot, the king's decree, everything. He gives the attendant a copy of the edict and sends a powerful message back to Esther. He urges her to go before the king, to plead for her people, to beg for their lives. But here's the catch. This is an incredibly dangerous request. No one, not even the queen, could just walk in on the king uninvited. The law was clear. Anyone who approached the king without being summoned would be put to death, unless the king extended his golden scepter. And Esther hadn't been called to see the king for a whole month. She was risking her life. Esther sends a message back to Mordecai, explaining the immense danger. His response is one of the most famous and powerful lines in the entire book. He tells her, "Do not think that because you are in the king's house you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows, but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." Wow. Those words hit Esther hard. For such a time as this. This was her moment. This was her calling. She realizes her position, her influence, her very life wasn't just for her own comfort or safety. It was for a greater purpose. Esther rises to the challenge. She sends back a final message to Mordecai, telling him to gather all the Jews in Susa and to fast for her. They are not to eat or drink for 3 days and 3 nights. She and her attendants will do the same. And then, she says, "I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." What an incredible display of courage and faith. Esther is willing to lay down her life for her people. This is where we leave the story for now, on this massive cliffhanger. A young queen, facing a life or death decision, chooses to step out in faith. What happens next? You'll have to join me for the next video to find out. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.